All right, today we're working on simplifying fractions, so title your notes. And then let's take a look at our first fraction, which is 2/4. So I gave you a visual here. Altogether, this is one whole fraction bar split up into fourths. Altogether, we have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, which would look like this. Remember, 4/4 is equivalent to 1. So this is one whole fraction bar. However, we're not looking at the whole thing. We're just looking at 2/4 of it. And we want to simplify it. So let me show you another visual here. If I take same fraction bar, same size, but instead of splitting it up into fourths, I split it up into halves, I can see that 1/2 is the same as our 2/4. That was our 2/4 there. 1/2 is equivalent. That means that 2/4 is equivalent to 1/2. And we can see that 1/2 is the simplest that it can get because 2 is a prime number. 1 and 2 have no common factors, so we're done. It's as simple as it can get. Now, you can't use a visual like this every time, so let me show you how to do it mathematically. If you have the fraction 2/4 and you're trying to simplify it, you need to divide by a number. Remember, whenever you divide by a number in the numerator, you have to divide by the same number in the denominator in order to keep the fraction equivalent. So basically, you can multiply or divide any fraction as long as you keep the number the same in the numerator and the denominator. So what I want to do is look for a common factor of 2 and 4. Well, I can see that they're both even, so right away I know that they'll both be divisible by 2. So 2 divided by 2 equals 1, and 4 divided by 2 equals 2. And then this is simplest form, so 1/2 is the simplest form of 2/4. What you have to understand is that 2/4 is the same as 1/2. It's just that 1/2 is the simplest form of that fraction. You could even picture a pizza. If I have a pizza and I cut it up into fourths, if I eat 2 of those pieces, it's the same as if I had cut that pizza into half and eaten half of the pizza. I eat the same amount of pizza. They're the same amount. These fractions are equivalent. It's just that this is simplest form. Okay, so now let's do one without the fraction bars. 20/24. Now there's actually 2 ways of doing this. The first way I'm going to show you is with the greatest common factor. We just got done practicing greatest common factor, so this might be easier for some of you. First of all, let me just list out the factors. You don't have to do this every time, but for those of you who are confused, I'm going to show you how to do it. So the factors of 20, remember, would be the rainbow. 1 times 20. 2 times 10, we can't do 3, but we could do 4 times 5. Then I'm done. Factors of 24 would be 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. We can't do 5, so we're done. So now we want to look for the biggest number that they both have in common. So the largest number that they both have in common would be right here, which is a 4. So what I'm going to do, since that's the greatest common factor, is I'm going to divide by 4. Remember, whatever I do in the numerator, I've got to do the same thing in the denominator to keep it equivalent. So therefore, 20 divided by 4 would be 10. 20 divided by 4 would be 5. And then 24 divided by 4 would be 6, which is what I have right here. Now 5/6 cannot be simplified anymore because 5 is prime. They don't have any more common factors, so I'm done. 5/6 is the simplest form. These 2 fractions mean the same exact thing. It's just that this is simplest form. All right, now let's take that same fraction, 20/24. Let's say you couldn't figure out the greatest common factor. That's fine. You can just divide this by any factor that they both have in common. So I could see 20 and 24 both have a common factor of 2 because they're both even. So I'm going to divide by 2, and remember, whenever I divide by 2 in the numerator, I've got to divide by 2 in the denominator. Therefore, that would simplify to 10/12 because 20 divided by 2 is 10, 24 divided by 2 is 12. Now I can see that I'm not done yet because 10 over 12 is not simplest form. They both have at least one common factor. So I need to figure out what that common factor is. Well, again, they're both even, so I can divide by 2 again. I can continue to do this until I'm done as long as they're both even. So therefore 10 divided by 2 would be 5, and 12 divided by 2 would be 6. That's the same answer we got for this fraction. It's just that we did it in more steps to get to the final answer. So whichever way you prefer is fine. All right, now let's take a look if we have variables instead of numbers. X to the 4th times y squared divided by x to the 3rd times y to the 5th. Now in order to simplify this, the first time we do it, let me just show you what it actually means. I'm going to list all these out, okay? So x to the 4th, remember, really means x times itself 4 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Y squared really means y times itself 2 times. 1, 2. Then in the denominator, x to the 3rd means x times itself 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And y to the 5th means y times itself 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have that all listed out here. Now whenever you have the same thing in the numerator and the denominator, they cancel each other out. So I'm going to look for things that I have in common. Well, I could see that they both have an x. So this x is going to cancel out with this x. I'm going to keep going until I can't cross any more out. Okay, I've got another x in the numerator and the denominator, so I'm going to cancel those out. I've got another x in the numerator and the denominator, so I'm going to cancel those out. Now I've got another x in the numerator, but I don't have any more in the denominator, so I cannot cross that one off because there has to be one in the numerator and the denominator in order for them to cancel. So now let's look at our y's. Okay, they both have a y in the numerator and denominator, so I'll cancel those. They both have another y in the numerator and the denominator, so I will cancel those. I cannot cancel any more y's because there's no more left on the top, so I'm done. Now all I need to do is write out what this really means. So what do you have in the numerator? The only thing that you have left in the numerator is an x. What do you have left in the denominator? Y times y times y, which using variables would be y to the 3rd power because you have 3 y's. That would be the simplest form of this fraction. Okay, let's take a look at another one. 3ab squared over 12ac. All right, so this time we've got numbers and we've got variables. What I recommend is to look at them completely separately. So let's just look at the 3 over 12 first. Let's simplify that the same way we did in the first couple examples. What is a common factor of 3 and 12? Obviously 3. We can divide both of those by 3 in order to simplify it. So 3 divided by 3 would be 1, and 12 divided by 3 would be 4, which is what I wrote right here. So we have the 1 over 4. I kept everything else the same because we haven't even done anything with the variables yet. We're just looking at the numbers. Now let's take a look at the variables. So I'm going to list this out again like I did last time. So remember, a is just a, b squared would be b times b, and then in the denominator we just have a times c, which is what I listed right here. So whenever we have the same thing in the numerator and the denominator, they will cancel. So I can see that I have an a in the numerator and an a in the denominator, so those will both cancel out. No more a's to cancel. I only have b's in the numerator, so that can't cancel with anything in the denominator, and I only have a c in the denominator, so that cannot cancel with anything in the numerator. So I'm done. So I need to write this out now using exponents. So I could write 1 times b, and how many b's do we have? 2, so it's b squared over 4c. Now remember, do you need that 1 with the b squared? No, you don't, because 1b squared is the same as b squared. So you could see it either way. Both of these would be correct. So b squared over 4c. Doesn't matter which way you write it, they mean the same thing. So here is your final answer, either one of these. All right, that's it for today. Bye, guys.